I'm Judge Penny Wolfgang. Welcome to the program. It's Mother's Day weekend, so who better to talk with than my daughter Robin as we share family stories with you. Then, changes continue to be made with imagery, team names, and mascots with respect to Native American communities. We will find out why. Plus, remembering those we lost 1 year ago in the mass shooting tragedy. Right here, right now, on The Big Picture. Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you again. Sunday, May 14th is Mother's Day, and whether you celebrate as a mother and grandmother with your family, like I do, with your loved ones, as a woman of influence with children, visiting your mom, or simply remembering her, it's an important day of recognition. So to celebrate Mother's Day, I'm happy once again to welcome back my daughter Robin to the program. Welcome to our annual Mother's Day program on The Big Picture. We're giving you an update, a little update on my life since we talked to you last time on Mother's Day, particularly as a mother, obviously. And thanks to my daughter Robin, I am a mother, and thanks to Robin, we're going to find out what it's like to be my daughter in this day and age and what has happened in the last couple of years since we had a chance to talk to her last time. And a lot has happened, and the most major thing that's happened, I guess, is that thanks to my daughter and her family, I am now a neighbor of my daughter, my granddaughter, and my son-in-law. And that is a very, very interesting situation. And I want to say that it was totally Robin's idea. It's not like I said, oh, I have to move right next door to you to be right in your backyard. No, I want to say it was their idea. So just so you're thinking, oh, geez, what a pain in the neck, living right next door to my mother and my mother-in-law and my granddaughter. No, right? Hi, Robin, right? It was not my idea. I don't want people to think what a pain I am. It didn't happen that way, right?
Well, those are two separate. Both of those statements can be accurate. First of all, happy Mother's Day. We'll start there.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start there. But the answer is yes, we did invite you. Actually, it was the second time that the house you are in came up for sale. And the first time you did not act on it and you said no and someone moved in. And then a certain number of years later, it came up for sale again and we asked, and this time you said yes on a Friday and bought it on a Sunday. So it happened very quickly. But it did also go back to the fact that you kind of said to us that what happens if something were to occur and I'm all the way over here, you'll never know, you don't call me every 5 minutes, what if I'm here for 10 minutes and no one knows about it? So we thought it might be easier on all of us if you were right here. We can see when you're home, see when you're not home, see when the lights come on, see when the lights go off, see when you get your paper, when you don't get your paper, when your car comes in, when it goes out. So yeah, it makes it easier. Then I don't have the nagging, you didn't call me every 10 minutes. So
but it also works vice versa. I can keep my eye on you. So, but the funny thing is a lot of people, when they heard, oh, I'm moving right next door to my daughter, and a lot of people were thinking, oh, that was a very good preemptive move. So that way they won't have to have a mother-in-law, and grandmother living in the same house with them. I know that's what you were thinking. I know.
You have your own space and your own things, and then it kind of works out.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of funny circumstances about being next door, and like having an open door policy. And one seems to be that you're trying to keep me in my house and not coming over every 5 minutes to check on you, right?
Well, not necessarily keep you in your house, but we did add an alarm system that dings our doors, so at least we know when you're there, because the drop-overs were,
right.
We have to coordinate that a little bit.
There's a bell that rings when I open the door. That wasn't there before I moved in here, okay? Let's just talk about that.
That is true.
Now, let me just, maybe people didn't see our first interview when we first talked a few years ago. Let me just ask you, I know it might be repetitious, but what was what was your life like growing up with a politician, I guess, and a candidate and a person like myself who is maybe in the public eye? How did it affect you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously people think of all the pros that come with it. There are definitely advantages, but there are some disadvantages as well. I mean, I think the pros were obviously we did a lot of amazing things. We certainly got to go to a lot of parades. I was in a lot of parades. I went to every Allentown Art Festival there was, and Elmwood Art, everything, Elmwood Avenue, Delaware Avenue. We marched up and down all of them. So there certainly was a lot of mingling with people and getting to see parts of the city and being involved in all of the big events that occur from A to Z. We went to all of them because the campaign seasons were long, and we did 3 different sets of campaign seasons. I mean, I think the thing to think about is your first campaign, I was 12 years old. So it was obviously a lot different than your next campaign, which was I was in high school. So there's obviously a difference in age range and in my ability to absorb it and the effect it had, because certainly in high school it was, you know, high school's a little trying, and to be kind of in the middle of a campaign and to drive with, you know, back then instead of magnets on the side of your car, I had like the ability to basically look like I was a Domino's pizza driver with like a thing on the top of my car.
Vote for.
So, I mean, I think that, you know, it's a little hard to be anonymous. I mean, in high school you tend to want to blend in or be known for what you were doing. And I certainly had name recognition before I had ability to do the things I wanted to do. So those are some of the pros and the cons. But then as life went on, I think there was some pros. I mean, I can recall that my very first job in Washington, D.C. Was with ABC News. And I got that through a connection that you had with Phil Buth, who was with Channel 7, who knew Richard Pollack, who was the producer for Good Morning America. Who was my first boss when I moved to work at ABC News. So I'm still friendly with Richard Pollack all these years later. He was one of the first people that I really looked up to as a mentor. He went on to do other things within the media. It's not with ABC any longer, but that entree came from your Law and You connection. You know, Phil Buth was actually someone who gave you your first job, and so it should be ironic that he gave me essentially my first job as well.
And you know, people always assume that since your father was a lawyer, and since I am a lawyer, that you were going to be a lawyer. And I think even now, it's hard for you. I don't know if it's hard for you, but it's a question that people always say, oh, aren't you a lawyer? Oh, why aren't you a lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, there's some assumption that people go into the same careers or take the same career path as their parents took. But I did something similar. I mean, obviously a big element of being in the law is being able to write, to research, to do messaging, to do communications, oral presentations, all of which I do as part of my job and my career path. It just doesn't happen to be in a courtroom. So I think that's really the only caveat.
So I wanted to ask you, what in the activities that we've done all the years together, and you mentioned the parades and the campaigning, but what was the most fun? What sticks out in your mind that we've done together as mother and daughter?
Well, it has to be traveling. I mean, we certainly had some great adventures traveling, starting with the trip when we went to Rome. And we were unaware that you had to have either a long skirt or pants to get into the Vatican.
No, I forgot this. You got to tell the story.
My suitcase had been lost, so all I had was shorts. And so we went to go in, and we got turned away. And then we just went into a bathroom, and because you're a little shorter than me, I wore your skirt. That was
we just changed clothes and we walked right back in. I gave you my
Yep.
Yeah. Let's not bring up the little shorter part, because
Sorry,
we're purposely sitting down for this interview. I said there's no way I'm standing. So how it turned out that you and my granddaughter are like, I don't know, giants, and I'm like the tiniest person. How could that be? Everyone always comments.
I don't know, there's 2 genes that go into the whole mix. Do I have to really explain this to you?
I don't know.
I think my father was tall and his family's tall.
It seems so totally unfair. Yeah. What did you take away from our mother-daughter relationship that you've passed on to your own daughter?
I mean, I think as people know you to be a judge and now to do TV, you're very independent, you're broken barriers, you've never been afraid to take on challenges. And I think you're very independent, sort of, and you know how to fill a day, you know how to keep yourself busy, and you know how to do a lot of what I consider to be activities, whether they're boards of directors or jobs or extracurriculars. And I think Karen and I are both like that. I mean, we both fill our days with lots of activities. We're both very independent. We can take care of ourselves, whether that's in taking a trip or whether that's getting to the airport or packing your bags or anything of that sort. I think those are kind of the basic life skills. You know, people talk a lot about that getting a job or being successful in a career is not just about getting a degree. It's about being able to handle life and being able to, it's the extra skills that get you there. And I think that's really where you came in handy. A lot of those skills, certainly some of them come from Dad, obviously being organized and being neat are not your forte. Those came from the other parent, but the rest of it, I think the rest of it really came from you.
I think that your relationship with your daughter is a little different from what you and I had. And I'm not sure if it's because like I didn't have enough time. I had so little time, it seems like, in my life to do the things that you're doing with Karen. I don't know if I didn't make the time or if I think I didn't have it, but you are, I think, compensating, or you've learned that, you know, you only have this chance one time, and you're spending as much time and as much energy as you are with Karen, which I think I couldn't.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true in that, you know, all the books and all the things they talk about, that work-life balance is so much more important today, and people recognize it so much more. So I think employers make it more palatable for you to say, I've got to go to a horse show, or I've got to go here, I've got to do things. And I think, yes, I definitely make more time to do those things, whether it's going to a lesson or going to a horse show or being there for all the plays or whatever it might be from the get-go. I think I've just made that a priority. And I also think part of it is that a lot of her interests are my interests and things that I like. I mean, being around horses was never your forte. You didn't want to be around, you didn't want to come to saddle and bridle or under any circumstances. So Dad went instead, or even for the tennis matches, Dad went instead because it was cold or it was windy or we had a lot of adverse weather since we played outside. So I think that was part of it too, is that I share a lot of her passions, and so it's really important to be able to share in them. And 18 years go really fast. I mean, she's off to college, and you know, it's been such a big part of my days and my nights and my weekends that I often wonder, you know, what's going to happen now. So
it's not possible for me, being only like 39 or 40, to have a granddaughter that's going off to college. Are you sure? Are you sure that's really happening? And
sadly, I am.
Speaking of going to colleges, I have to laugh because remember when we did all the college trips and I went to all the warm places that you were looking at, and Dad went to all the cold places?
Yes,
I know you
and it was also the ones that could drive. You didn't like long drives. So
yes.
We drove to Maine and we
That's
drove
true.
up to Boston. So I don't think that you wanted to do the driving part.
And I still don't want to
Yes,
drives,
yes,
you know.
yes.
I cried when you went away to Atlanta to college and we drove you and dropped you off. I sobbed. How are you going to be? How are you going to be? This is imminent.
Yes. This is months away. It's days away.
Are you?
No, I'm not prepared. I might need help.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't look at me.
Karen's been going to camp.
help you.
Karen's been going to camp since she was 6, and I still very well remember the first overnight camp she went to was only for 2 weeks. And it was a drive, and I drove her to the camp, and on the way home I had to pull over because I was crying, and then I stopped at a store and tried to like shop, and I couldn't even shop. I was like crying as I looked at stuff, and that was only for like 2 weeks. And obviously since then she's gone away for 8 weeks at a shot, and I'm much better at it. So I think that prepared me a little bit. I've been through a little bit of what it's like to go away. I mean, this is obviously going to be for a longer stretch. So
I just don't want to be around the day. Don't come next door, please, for at least a couple of days after Karen goes away to college.
Yes,
okay,
I will have to figure out what to do with myself.
I'm so lucky to have you, Robin. I can't thank you enough. I'm so blessed because not only, as you can see, and I guess as our viewers can see, we have such not only a close relationship, but we have so much love, and we're so lucky that we have each other. And I thank you so much for everything. And I thank you so much for being part of my family and watching and having a good Mother's Day with me and Robin. And we'll be right back. Thanks, Robin. I love you and my granddaughter, Karen. We will have more of the program after this brief break.